The schools should not be tolerating it.
But the schools are not.
A teacher should not be saying, if you believe that women have vaginas and men have penises, you have to leave the school.
Hello everybody, we are back with Piers Morgan here, as you can see, and he's got a panel lined up for us, which includes, I think, two LGBT, whatever, activists in the middle, and Douglas Murray on the right-hand side there. And as you can see, Piers Morgan sounds like he's outraged that if anybody says the obvious truth that men are men and women are women at certain schools, apparently you can be kicked out for that. Let's see what these clowns have to say.
That is complete nonsense,
no.
Right?
In this particular case, the Telegraph cited this handful of examples. They were by teachers, individual teachers. They were not school policy. And in at least one case, the school disowned the teacher and the policy and said that it wouldn't happen again.
But what about this case in Rye College?
Well, yeah, I'm sure there are some examples of excesses, but on the basis of those exceptions, you can't make a generalised attack upon the school system and suggest that all our kids are being propagandised in this way, because it's simply not
Well, when you hear
happening.
that teacher, I think, to bring Douglas back in, when you hear that teacher, there's clear evidence of what we've all been fearing has been going on, which is a teacher caught on tape literally spewing nonsensical gender ideology propaganda.
But one teacher.
Yes,
only one teacher.
One
out of
teacher,
tens of thousands.
Well, hang on. One teacher caught on tape. Right? There have been many other instances of this being reported, but no one's actually had it on tape. It's a bit like, I would liken it to the Partygate scandal, when we finally got a video of the people having what was clearly a party. There have been lots of rumours about it. So now we have a teacher clearly on tape doing this
But
stuff.
it's not official school policy.
If I may,
Schools across the country are
Well,
not,
she's still, to my knowledge,
this.
she is still working at that school. Douglas.
If I may, first of all, Ava rather unfortunately misspoke earlier when she said that the schoolgirl in question was acting out a fallacy. I think you meant a fantasy. But actually she is acting out a fallacy.
Thanks ever so
fallacy.
much. But do you know what I find fascinating?
She was right with fallacy.
Do you know what's fascinating about Douglas?
Has been propagated. A fallacy which has been propagated by gender ideologues and is doing profound damage to gay people, among others, in our society, as well as women.
Like
and let me explain
cared.
explain very quickly why. I can't quite hear you. I can hear you muttering something. Let me quickly explain why. A poll that just got published in the United States showed that among the general population, support for gay marriage has been starting to decline in the last year. Why is that? It's because the arguments that actually brought about liberal rights for all minorities in the last few decades have started to get turned on their head and turned against people. What is the source of that? It is the gender ideology movement.
Very interesting points here by Douglas Murray. For those of you who don't know, Douglas Murray is what they call a conservative commentator in the UK. He's notable for being, for having written several books about the nefarious and negative effects of mass immigration to Europe. I think one of his books was called, in fact, The Slow Suicide of Europe or something like that. He's a very good speaker, and he is gay. So that's why he's taking this angle here. He's got a specific interest. He's saying that this gender ideology, this trans ideology nonsense that has been going on for years now, is backfiring on the gay part of the LBGT, I can never get it right. And that people, ordinary, decent people, are just getting fed up with the whole nonsense of it. And there's going to be a hard swing back. The pendulum is going to swing back so hard that he's worried that rights, that gay people have acquired over the years are going to get thrown out with everything else. And he might be right. Who knows?
What is the tripwire for the general public? It is children. It is people learning that their children are being taught nonsensical things. It is being seen by the wider public, most of whom are
not just nonsensical, dangerous and dis-civilizational.
Heterosexual and don't need to identify as cis or anything else. It is being seen from that vantage point as the LGBTQIA plus movement losing control of itself. And so a backlash is starting. And the backlash is coming because people are lying to children and are using children for medical experiments. There's nothing funny about that. There's nothing that should cause levity in that. It should be treated by adults seriously.
OK,
no,
Ava?
So, Douglas, it's really important, actually, all of that point that you've just brought up. It's very on brand for you because, you know, you like to stoke fear. You've actually made a career out of it. I'll take you back to your book, The Strange Death of Europe, and you made a big fright. You know, you frightened the entire public about your thoughts on Europe, and we ended up in Brexit. You weren't the sole contributor to that, but you were a big
Can we
voice
stick
in
on to
that.
the
I will.
may
And then, you know,
say so
now
very
we're talking
quickly.
about LGBTQ,
If I may say so
and you're
very
creating...
quickly,
Hang on,
Piers.
you spoke. I'm speaking.
No,
I'm speaking.
I'll
You spoke.
reply.
This is, I mean...
And I'll reply.
Hello. I haven't
Let
finished.
Ava speak, please.
Now,
Douglas.
back on the trans issue, when you're talking about LGBTQ, what you've just done there is basically say that the whole of America, who have historically had a problem with gay marriage, are now turning on it because a couple of children in a classroom in Sussex want to be a cat. If you can't see the ridiculousness in that argument, I can't help you.
The bigger issue
first
is
of all, I
there is
must
no...
Oh, want to be a cat, so now the furries are getting involved. Yeah, this stuff is getting out of hand. And a little personal story. At my daughter's school, I have a 13-year-old daughter in our in the unnamed Western European country where I live. She goes to school, obviously, and there is, I think in one of the older grades, she mentioned there's one furry kid who apparently is allowed to come to school in a cat outfit or something with tail and everything. I don't know what the official school policy on this is. I think I should look into it, but you can be rest assured that that daughter of mine is not going to grow up with being propagandized and brainwashed with all this nonsense. I'm making every effort to make sure that she understands what really is going on, and it sounds like she definitely does, and her classmates too, which I'm glad to hear.
No such thing as gender ideology. We all have gender identities. You identify as a man, and I fully respect you.
Well, no, hang on. I don't identify as a man. I was born a biological male.
Yes.
That's where this whole thing
Piers, you need to let me
goes
come in.
rogue. I'll bring you back in, Douglas, in one second. That's where the whole debate goes rogue. You were born a biological male. You were born a biological female. Douglas, biological male. This is just a fact. Right?
No.
Once you start saying there are hundreds of genders and you can identify as anything you want, you're going to end up with kids at school going, I'm a horse. And you've got to treat me like a horse.
Piers, you're confusing two things.
No, I'm not.
Sex and gender.
I'm not.
I accept
they are being conflated.
Biological sex is one thing which I totally accept, and so do 99% of the people in the LGBT plus community. Gender is something different. Gender identity is how you see yourself.
And do you believe it's limitless?
No, I don't believe it's limitless.
What's the limit?
Well, there is basically male and female and intersex, but there are people who have different gender identities.
No, but how many genders are there?
Well, there is no fixed number.
So what's the limit?
I don't see a particular limit.
There's no limit. So when you said you said there is a limit. You admit there's no limit.
Sorry.
Well,
there is male and female
is
identity.
there a limit or not to the number of
genders?
genders?
Identity.
No, that's sex. But on gender, is there a limit to number of genders?
Well, there are some people who are asexual. That's an identity.
No, there are
some
the BBC has put in education videos. There are 100 plus genders.
Well, I don't agree with that. So
what is the limit? What's the number?
Well, I'm not going to specify a particular number, but it's very small.
But where do you draw the line?
Well, I draw the line based on science and evidence. And we know that there is a thing called...
Well, I have to hand it to Piers Morgan. A lot of times I think he is, as Katie Hopkins called him, a right twat. But sometimes he asks the right questions, so good on him. And on this issue, so far I'm pretty aligned with him. This is absolute nonsense, and it's dangerous nonsense, and it's decivilizational, it's destructive, it's harmful, and it shouldn't be allowed.
Intersex, where people are born with a mixture of both.
That is literally what it says
on.
That's what it says on the tin.
Female.
That is intersex.
Yeah.
People are born with chromosomes from both, right? That is a medical condition.
Yeah.
That's inarguable, right? We're talking about gender.
Well, trans identity is also a biological fact.
I know, but once
rooted in brain structures and processes.
I understand it, but once
as the new science shows.
But once you get into 100 genders, people can
we're not debating 100 genders.
Well, actually, the BBC has taught kids that. This is back to Douglas's point about affecting the brains of impressionable young kids.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the BBC if they're saying 100 plus genders.
Okay, Douglas.
Very quickly, I don't know, Ava, anything about your career. I don't know if you have one. But you did try to imply that you knew something about mine, and you just showed you know nothing about it, because actually my 2017 bestseller, The Strange Death of Europe, was not about the EU. So you should learn at some point to read more than the title of the book before
Europe.
commenting upon it.
It was about, and it was about
so
migration.
Let me very quickly...
And how rude are you? How rude are you?
Very quickly... You've
built a career out of fear-mongering, and you're now importing this evangelical American...
All right, this is already going off the rails here. Yeah, she seems hopeless. Douglas Murray is always very, very well-spoken and pretty insightful and quite courageous. He's written quite a few books. He's been on countless panels and TV shows, given God knows how many interviews, all pounding the same thing, you know, the same point that... In his case, it's mostly focusing on mass migration, in particular mass migration from Muslim countries to Europe, and that it's not sustainable and it's downright dangerous, and it is destroying Europe. I mean, you're going to turn European countries into non-European countries, and then it will no longer be Europe. You know, you don't become European simply by arriving on European soil. Same thing in America. Obviously, it's a big issue, hot button issue right now. So let me know what you think in the I mean, this particular video wasn't really about Europe. This woman just kept, you know, going off on a tangent there. It was more about this the promotion of transgender ideology in schools. I think everybody's disgusted that it's promoted to children, and if they're not, they should be. You know. For everything, you know, drag queen story hour, teaching young children about gender ideology, trans ideology in schools. I don't think it should be taught in any school at any level. You know, if parents are interested in that, they can teach it themselves. And then these books, there's these textbooks, these crazy textbooks I've seen in the States, but also in the UK, and similar things in Ireland. It's outrageous, and people need to fight back. It cannot be allowed to continue festering and really take root. It's already taken root somewhat, but it can be eradicated. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments. Please subscribe. You guys have really come through in the last few days. I've got a lot more subscriptions. I really appreciate that. So please, if you haven't subscribed already and you enjoy this content, I encourage you to subscribe and like the videos. It really helps me grow the channel so I can keep making content for you.